Welcome to the Table Podcast series with Bridget Johnson. Each month, we give you game-changing conversations about K-12 education and leadership. Join us as top educators, field experts, and administrators share actionable strategies to transform your school community. Let's dive in.
Welcome to The Table, the podcast where student life professionals, educators, and change makers come together to share stories, insights, and ideas for building communities where everyone belongs. I'm your host, Bridget Johnson, founder of the Dean's Roundtable and longtime student life professional. Each episode, we'll hear from people doing the hard, hopeful work of creating more just, compassionate, and restorative communities. So pull up a chair and let's get started. Today, I am so excited to be joined by Dr. Brooke Carroll. Brooke is a former head of school, a seasoned board member, and the founder of AC Strategies, where she helps small schools strengthen leadership and governance. She's passionate about supporting leaders and building strong, healthy communities. And today, we're diving into her recent work on building a conflict-resilient school culture, something that we both worked on together, which I'm excited to talk about. A topic that feels especially timely right now. You know, Brooke and I met during a summer cohort for Lead Team Partners almost 2 years ago, which is kind
Yeah.
of crazy, Brooke. I can't believe it's been
I
that
know,
long.
I know.
And, you know, we had a conversation about conflict resolution, and I was interested in partnering with her, and kind of the rest is history. So I am thankful to Chris Pryor and Lead Team Partners for bringing us together, and have enjoyed collaborating with her on various projects relating to conflict resolution, which is what we're going to talk about today. How are you doing, Brooke?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you, Bridget, for letting me come join you here at the table.
Absolutely. It's so good to see you. And so you've lived this work from so many angles as
Yes.
head, as a board member, as a consultant. What made you want to take on this subject of conflict in schools? And I know some people probably approached you about it too, and why does
Yeah.
it feel so urgent in this moment?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you referenced, there's so much conflict right now in our world. I mean, in our politics, in our communities, and in our schools. And it just, I was thinking about this. I think there are many of our challenges in our schools that just feel so complicated and so
Yes.
daunting.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, and, and this one, I just feel like there are solutions. We have strategies for managing conflict. And yes, it's complicated, but we can do this.
We can do it.
Right? And I just feel like there are places where people aren't doing it for one reason or another.
Right.
And so that's the urgency, like, oh gosh, we can, if we partner together with folks, you and me and other folks
Mm-hmm.
who have backgrounds in this and can help with the strategies, I feel like we can do it. So that's the urgency. And I keep seeing in the clients that I work with places where it really has a huge impact on the
Yeah.
ability for a school to be effective. And
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen some really rotten things happen at schools because of either a lack of addressing it or actually mismanagement of conflict.
Yeah.
And
Mismanagement.
so, right, and it's both of those things. There's some where it's just like, I don't know what to do, but there's some where it's
Right.
like, I'm doing something and it's like, whoa, that's
Yeah.
bad.
Stop doing that.
Yeah. So, so that's why it feels urgent and doable.
Yeah. Well, we often think of conflict as an enemy, and people
Right.
shy away from it. It makes them uncomfortable, but conflict can actually be healthy, and we talked about that, in the
Sure.
article we wrote. And so, how do we think of conflict as a potential opportunity instead of just something to avoid? And
Right.
how can schools shift their mindsets in that way?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that question. y- there's research that shows that when we have a diversity of perspective, a diversity of thought
Mm-hmm.
in our communities and in our decision making, that we have better
Yes.
outcomes, in all levels,
Mm-hmm.
programmatically, financially, in terms of um, culture and climate and feelings and all that kind of thing. So we want diverse perspectives.
Yes.
when you have diverse perspectives, by nature, you're going to be coming at things from different,
Yeah,
backgrounds
different
and
angles. And what
thinking, different
I
angles.
like to say sometimes, your six is my nine, and there's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
wrong with
yeah,
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Right, right. And so we need that. And in addition, we need to be able to say, okay, if your six is my nine, where do we go from there?
Right.
Right? And I think we've got some models in our society right now which say, I'm going to go back to my six corner and you know, be
Shouting
against
six while I'm
your
shouting
nine. Right,
nine.
right, right,
Right.
right, right. And that's just not helpful.
Right.
And so I think we need to say conflict is a natural and normal part of our everyday lives. It's in
Yes.
our families, it's in our communities, it's in our faith communities, it's in our schools,
Mm-hmm.
and just say it out loud. We're going to have
Say it
conflict.
out loud.
Okay, what do we do about that? Right?
Yeah,
And I
how do we
think,
manage it? Yeah.
yeah, and I think that starts and so, in the introduction, my focus is on governance and leadership. So
Right.
that's where I'm kind of focused, and I think it starts at the top,
Mm-hmm.
right? So boards need to be having this conversation about how are we in this boardroom lifting up diversity of thought
Mm-hmm.
and managing conflict.
Yeah.
Um,
Modeling that behavior.
Modeling. I will just say I was in a board meeting last night and
Uh-huh.
I said something, and a woman across the table had this look like, I do not agree with you. And I was like, you don't agree with me. Tell me
Yeah.
what? So it's like not like, oh, you don't agree.
How
No,
dare you not agree with me?
right. No, it's like, no, no. Oh, help me learn.
Yeah, let's
Help
talk
me
about it.
learn. Right. So I think it starts at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and
Fair enough, and I love that. And so, we talked about the phrase conflict resilient school
mhm,
culture, but what does that really mean? What does that look like
right,
to you?
right. So it means proactive.
Mm-hmm.
It means proactive, and that people know what to do when conflict arises.
Right.
And it starts at the top and it goes all the way down
All the way
to our
down.
littlest preschoolers. That and in all of our classrooms we can go in and say, "Oh, here's a conversation corner."
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where students can go and work out their conflicts, and they might have a guide that says, ask this question,
Mm-hmm.
because it being proactive, it does not assume that we all know how to do this well.
Right.
It gives us guidelines. So from our youngest all the way up to the board, what are we going to do? How are we going to make decisions? I think a lot of times in when we're in groups,
Mm-hmm.
we don't make visible how we are making decisions. We just do it. We're like,
Right.
does
Everybody agree?
everybody
Yeah, we're
agree?
good.
Yeah, okay, let's go. And
Right.
that's not fostering diversity of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so there needs to be an articulation of how this process is going to go. Okay, we're going to bring this proposal forward. Here's some
Mm-hmm.
data, and then we're going to talk about it, and we're going to make sure everybody's voice is heard. And then, if we are not in agreement, what are we going to do? How are we going to
Let's
move
talk about
forward?
it. Right.
Right. And so again, it's proactive. It helps everybody understand what's going to happen. Let's go back to when there is conflict and when it starts to get challenging. We in our
Mm-hmm.
article we distinguish between kind of the routine conflict,
Right.
you
And
know,
challenging conflict.
and then
Right.
challenging conflict, which really gets a little tougher.
Mm-hmm.
But so a challenging conflict between colleagues in the school, or between a parent and a teacher, or something like that. People want to know what the expectations are. So if
Right.
I'm a parent and I'm frustrated with my child's teacher, what what should I do?
Mm-hmm.
And without a very clear pathway, that's going to raise my anxiety, so I'm going to raise it even more, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Right? And the same with colleagues. I'm frustrated with my colleague. What do I do with that frustration? And if there's not a culture where I can go say, "Hey, Pat, I'm really frustrated with this."
Hmm.
And Pat is understands that that's part of what we do here, and Pat can be like, "Oh, okay. Well, how about we talk after school this afternoon about that?"
Yeah.
Rather than, "What?" You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And you know what I think is so interesting is that I think we do a really good job a lot of times of giving our students the
Students.
way
Yeah.
to manage
Yeah.
conflict, but we're not as great as, using those tools for ourselves, and we don't
Yeah.
model that. And you talked a little bit about what happens when we don't have structures in place for
Right.
adult conflict, and what that ripple effect can look like, because
Yeah.
it's not just often between two people. It does have
Oh,
a
then
rippling effect, and so we want to kind of minimize that, but we're not necessarily thinking about that in the moment now, are we?
no, no. And when we feel like we need to go to our corner
Hmm.
and armor up
Right.
and get our, team that is going to be in opposition. And I mean, I say that kind of in a dramatic way, but that's what
Sure. Yeah,
happens.
that's what happens. No,
That's what
absolutely.
happens. And I have seen then that flow ripple effect, and then there are petitions written, and we're not in conversation. We're responding and acting from fear,
Right.
and protection and armor, and that's just not healthy for school communities at all.
Right, at all. And no. And so, at the heart of that, relationships, right? And so if
Mhm.
you build relationships with folks, then, you hope that you feel a little bit more comfortable coming to someone and say, hey, can we talk about that? Like, that
Yeah.
didn't feel so good, or I
Right.
don't quite agree with what just happened. And
Mhm.
so, and that's something that, takes time. It's not something like, hey, we just built a relationship in the last 5 minutes. That's not how it works, right?
Right.
And so, talking about how that's the bedrock of conflict resilient schools, I think is important. And
Mhm.
so, those key ingredients are what in terms of those investing in those relationships is what we need. But like,
Yeah.
how, when you're talking with boards and there seems to be some like, could be conflict within the board, like we're not
Right.
even talking about, we didn't really talk about that in our
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
an article, but getting people to the point where they've built relationship, where there's trust there.
Mhm.
What advice do you give to boards in terms of kind of building and
Mhm.
laying that foundation?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think you touched on it. It takes time, right? It's not an immediate, and because it's about trust.
Right.
It's about trust. If I say to you, "Hey Bridget, I don't agree with you there," and can we talk about that?
Mm-hmm.
If you're brand new to the board and you've said something and I say that to you, and you haven't, you don't know whether I'm going to call you out in front of other people, or
Right.
whatever, is there shame? I mean, there's all kind of things. So I think we have to be um, aware of the time needed to build trust. I think
Mm-hmm.
we need to be aware um, of impact. Certainly, I think we need to be aware of authority structures and
Yeah,
power and things like that. That's
absolutely.
another thing that I was thinking about. We didn't talk about, but
We did.
power. But
We have
power,
to do a part two.
right, right. We'll have to do a part two. Power comes into it, um, and then there's modeling,
Yeah.
and then there's modeling. And so I do think that folks who have authority, who have perceived or true positional authority,
Mm-hmm.
um, need to be cognizant and aware of how they're using that. So again, that when I talk that board meeting last night that I talked
Yeah.
about, I'm the chair of that board.
Ah.
So I could have looked over at, and this colleague, I've worked with her, and so we have a relationship, but there are 5 new people on our board.
Wow. Okay.
And so if I had said, if I had responded in a way that was like, I'm not listening to your
Shutting it down.
whatever, to your disagreement, um, th-
That
then
sets the stage.
it
Yeah,
sets
that
the
sets the
stage.
tone.
Everybody's watching,
Yep,
right? Everybody's
absolutely.
watching. So, so that's one piece. I mean, you started. It's about relationships, but I think
Hmm.
um, it's about building trust. All of the things that we need to do to build trust. And I do think I think that one of the elements, as I look into the kind of elements of trust,
Hmm.
one of them is clear expectations.
Yeah.
And it gets back to this, what have we said out loud? What do we have in writing
Hmm.
about how we, um, what our values are and how we manage conflict? And so, in the absence of that, people are left confused or uninformed, right?
Uninformed. And, they are then constructing their own narrative. And you know what
Yes.
happens
Yeah.
when when that takes place? We have the wildest imaginations, right? And so given that space, we're able to
Yes.
create and what we think in our minds is probably true, which could be so far from the truth, but
Right.
that transparency isn't there and that those clear
Yes.
expectations aren't there. So now we've made things up. And so
Yes.
when everyone does that in their own little way,
It's a big
yikes.
mishmash, right?
Yes. You
Right.
might have some problems.
Right.
So, we talked a little bit about being proactive
Mhm.
versus reactive. And so, how can schools find the balance between the proactive relationship building and having clear policies when things get tough? Because you can't do it all at once, right? Like you would
Right.
like to, but you
Right.
can't. And
Right.
so,
Right. Right.
you need
Right.
to kind of figure out, like, kind of what's my entry point and how we kind of
Mhm.
do this like piece by piece.
Right. Right. Yeah, and so I do think they're parallel tracks. I do think
Yes.
that you can
Hmm.
move, that you move forward. And I think schools, and you referenced this, schools are really in the, most schools are kind of in the business of relationship building with their
Right.
students, with their families, with their faculty and staff. And so, again, being intentional about that. And
Hmm.
and if you don't and not making it up. We have a lot of information about how
Right.
about about culture building, about impacting climate. And so if you're just creating from what you think I would offer, and I do offer to folks, look out at experts. Look at what
Hmm.
experts are writing. Look at the information that's out there about how to build um, a relationship positive culture and climate.
Right.
So there's that, and
Hmm.
then there's this also, taking a look at what you have written down. What are your structures? Where are you intentionally addressing um, conflict education at all levels? Eh,
Yeah.
Right? And I would also say, don't do that on your own, leader. Bring in,
Right.
that this is a collaborative effort. This is a
Hmm.
collaborative effort on your board. Perhaps your governance committee can have this as a goal of how are we helping this board to manage conflict. It's better when you do it when you're not in deep
In the
conflict,
conflict,
right?
exactly.
So that's part of the proactive part. How are we going to foster diversity of thought, lift up all voices, and then react, and support when differences of opinion come to the fore. Um, so I don't think of them kind of as, I don't know, I'm not sure balance is not, it's more like parallel
Both
track.
and.
Yeah, it's both and. It's both and.
Gotcha.
As so many things are, right?
So right. And so, we mentioned earlier, routine versus challenging conflicts. And
Yeah.
so, our focus in the article we wrote and in the presentations we were doing is the challenging conflicts, not the ones that can be mitigated by, just having a conversation or mediation, something that's kind of ratcheted up to the next level. And oftentimes, like you just mentioned, that we don't think about those things until we're in the moment. And then we're kind of scrambling and to figure out like how to manage this and who should be in charge and should there be a committee and that sort of thing. So can you just distinguish for us, and I talked just a little bit about it just now,
Yeah,
between routine and challenging, and
right.
what we think is challenging conflict at the board level.
Yeah. So, so let me back up and just say, well, so routine is our disagreements that happen on a regular basis between people who are working and engaging together that can be um, resolved one on one, you and
Right.
me, or I'm going to bring in somebody, my supervisor, or I'm going to bring in a neutral third party to help us talk through this. That's kind of a next level. The
Right.
first level is just you and I are going to work it out. The
Right.
next level is let's get somebody else to help us so we can, see the different sides and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And then there are those challenges where we're starting to get entrenched. We're not able to see the pathway forward, or where it's a legal issue.
Right.
There is discrimination or harassment.
Mm-hmm.
Those kinds of things. Um, uh, and then there's also, and we talked a little bit about authority. There's also those conflicts that are with a supervisor
Mm-hmm.
where there is power differential. And
Right.
that also starts to get, a little bit more challenging. And
Right.
hopefully, certainly there are routine conflicts that you have with a supervisor or a supervisee that you can work out one on one. But there's when you add power differential, it adds to the swirl.
Right.
So these are all the things that bring these conflicts up a level.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of these in a school can and should be handled at the school level,
Right.
at the operations level, in the pathway of moving up the authority chain, right? So if I'm a parent and I have a concern or a frustration with my teacher, I'm not going to just go right to the head of school.
Right.
Head of school is going to say, "Did you talk to the teacher?"
Exactly.
Right? Start down here, try and work it out here, and
Right.
then we go up the chain, right? And that's appropriate, and it is inappropriate for boards to get involved at that level.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where misconceptions occur because a lot of people in school environments don't really understand what a board does,
Right.
right? And so they think, well, the board is the head's boss, so
So
I'm
we're just
really
gonna
angry.
go right there.
I'm angry at this teacher. I'm going right to the top.
Right.
And my friend is a board member. So I'm going to talk to him and say, you know, and that is where, and I've seen that happen. That's not a hypothetical situation, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
And that is tremendously destabilizing for a
Right.
school when that board member takes that conflict on, hears that complaint, and then tries to get involved. So
Right.
that gets back to very clear expectations about what do I do when I have a frustration, a concern, a conflict? Where do I go? Now, there are times where it is appropriate for the board to get involved. Very few.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it has to do with legal issues. The board needs to know about legal issues and perhaps may need to have a seat at the table if there is a legal issue that's occurring, a legal
Yep.
conflict. And then when there is a problem or a conflict with the head of school. Now again, you always want to start at the lowest level. If
Right.
I'm an employee and I am in conflict with the head of school, you want to have that start with a conversation there.
Mm-hmm.
However, again, if there's allegations of harassment, discrimination, things like that, that then is a board issue.
Right.
But now not go to my friend
Right.
who's a board member. And there needs to be clarity about where you go. Should either be the chair of the board
Mm-hmm.
or somebody else designated that would take that on. Another member of the executive committee, a member of the governance committee, depends on what your board structure is. But but clarity. And then if somebody does come, if you're a board member and somebody does bring you a concern,
Mm-hmm.
you need to have the language to say, "Oh, that is not for me."
Right.
You need to have you
Follow
started
these
at the
steps.
bottom?
Mm-hmm.
And then if it does need to go to someone on the board, here's where you go. So
Yep.
everybody needs to have that clarity.
Yeah, and so oftentimes, people say, "Oh yeah, we wrote it down somewhere. Where is that thing? And who do I talk to now?" And
Right.
so I think that's where we really run into trouble because then people kind of fly by the seat of their pants and they just
Yep.
kind of wing it when
Yep.
you shouldn't be winging it, and that does not foster consistency
Right.
because that's the other thing that you want to make
Yep.
sure that you're doing when these issues come to the table, that they're all treated in the same manner, and that's hard to do when there's
You,
no clear place to go for the process. So
exactly.
when you are talking to boards or advising boards about having these policies, where do they live, and how
Mm,
do they let people know that this is who you should talk to or where you should go so that they
sure.
have a sense?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that they need to be in the schools' handbooks,
Mm,
right? And so because it is the board engagement is a small part of it.
right.
Small but necessary part of it. And and
Hmm.
and usually the part that's left off. But a conflict resolution policy needs to start at the very bottom and go to the very top and be consistent. I love that point of consistency that you brought up because that also fosters trust,
Right.
right? And so I would say, it needs to be in the parent handbook, it needs to be in the faculty staff handbook, um, and then the board, and it needs to be in the board handbook because the board needs to know too.
Right.
And I think that one of the this lives also in crisis management for the board,
Yes.
which is what, when I talk about all the things that boards, all the practices that boards need to do,
Hmm.
crisis management is like the one in the down in the bottom corner, like, then, oh yeah, we just don't have
In
time
eight
for that,
font.
right? Right. And yet, it's the thing that can
Can really
absolutely
derail or blow
destable,
up.
right,
Hmm.
right, a school the most. So it's critical that boards spend time on a regular basis considering crisis management. And it was one of the elements. So um, having those scripts, spending, 15 minutes in your board retreat practicing what would you say
Yeah.
if somebody came to you, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So I think they need to live everywhere, and I think
Hmm.
they need to be talked about on an annual basis.
On an annual basis, I agree with that. And I think also sometimes, you mentioned earlier, oh, my friend's on the board, and
Mm,
making it crystal clear about when a board member needs to recluse himself or say
yeah,
there's a conflict of interest here. And
right.
oftentimes that doesn't happen because you're like, oh, that's my friend. I should be involved or I want to help. And like, ooh,
Mm-mm.
actually, you shouldn't. You
Yeah,
should just
yeah,
step away. And
yeah.
so, that's another piece too, because people feel like when they have a friend on the board that they have
You get that
access.
in and access.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
access in a way that other folks don't, and that gives them a little bit of, kind of emboldened confidence to go
Mhm.
and do things that might be out of order in
Right.
terms of the process, and so you want to make sure that you rein that in.
Yeah.
I know our conversation is mostly focused kind of at the board level, but I do want to talk about for those in my audience who are kind of the middle leaders, the
Mm-hmm.
deans and the division heads and the assistant heads who often end up in the crossfire in
Right in the
terms
middle.
of
Right in the middle.
conflict, and many times that they are able to kind of handle it and mitigate it within that before it having to get to the head of school, but sometimes they aren't able to do that, and it has to go to the head of school, and then the head of school gets involved, and we haven't really talked about the process for the head of school and
Yeah.
making sure that process is sound as well, because we don't want the head of school just kind of willy-nilly, kind of on the fly,
Yes.
mitigating these conversations, especially if someone else has it in with the head, like they're a
Yeah.
friend of the head of
Yep.
school, or, and so making sure that those pieces are also shored up as well, so that there's clear policies and procedures, and also following those between
Yeah.
faculty, parents, and administration. But
Yeah.
also, like, and knowing when to escalate, because
Mhm.
that's the other thing. Sometimes we can often hold on to conflict a little too long. So I think there's kind of barbell
Both.
effect here,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
on
Yeah.
both ends. So sometimes you hold on to it a little too long, and it should not have. You should have kind of let someone else know,
Hmm.
head of school know at that juncture, or the opposite, like you have just kind of blown through what you should have done and just said, I don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to give it to the head. And so, what sort of advice do you give about knowing when to escalate?
Yeah. Well, it's and this is we talked about this in the article because we were like, it's not just first you go here and then you go here and then you
Right.
go here, and it gets back to expectations. If I'm a parent or a faculty member and I have a conflict and I bring it to my division head, what can I expect?
Right.
Right? And if I'm in lower school and my friend is in middle school, can we expect the same thing from our division head?
Very good question. Yes.
Right? Right? So it gets to your consistency piece. And
Yep.
that's not, if you leave that up to chance, you will not get consistency. So that's what we talked about, like here are the things that you need to clarify. What am I going to do with that complaint?
Mm-hmm.
How do I accept that complaint? Can it be a verbal complaint? Do I need to put it in writing? And so we recommend when it really escalates, put it in writing, say
Right.
these are the things that I've already done,
Yep.
and this is what I want. This is what I want to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it puts some of the responsibility on the complainant.
Yes.
It's not just here's my problem, you deal with it.
Yeah, deal with it.
No, right? No, here's what I've done, and here's what I would like to have happen. And then I need to know, how long is it going to take? Am I going to wait 6 months before I hear something back? How long is it going to take?
Mm-hmm.
What that whoever it is, the division head, or if it goes up to the head, or if it goes to the board,
Yeah.
we need the clarification on all these. How long is it going to take? What are you going to do? Who are you going to talk to?
Yeah.
Is this confidential? And you need to have some leeway there. It can't be
Right.
completely confidential, but you need to, within
Keep
reason,
it contained. Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and then when can I expect to hear something back? And then if I am not satisfied, what happens
What?
next,
Yeah. What happens
right?
next?
What happens next? And is this something that will go to the head of school? Can I then take it to the head of school? If I'm not satisfied with the head of school, can I take it to the board? So those are the things that clarity about the steps helps provide consistency
Yeah.
and helps me as the complainant trust that this organization takes this seriously
Right.
and is acting professionally and is not just acting on the whims of this person's personality,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep,
So,
which can happen.
oh
And
yeah.
so, so you talked about steps, and I think that's a great segue into my last question for you. If someone's listening to this today, I'm like, oh my gosh, we do not have this. Well,
Yeah.
oh Lord, I'm not
Yeah.
sure what to do
Oh
first.
my
This is what we need. I know this is what we need. What is the one first simple step they can take to kind of to get the ball rolling, to become more
God.
conflict resilient?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we talked about this before. I would say start talking to other people.
Yeah.
Start collaborating. Start having conversations about, hey, what would happen if somebody, and certainly you can use, well, remember last year when X, Y, and Z happened and
Mm-hmm.
PDQ was the result? How can we do that better?
Mm,
So you can certainly use examples like that. Again, as we said, it's better when you're
not
creating
in
these
it.
structures, not in it, right? And doing it proactively. But I would say have a conversation. The other thing that people who are really motivated to help their schools be more conflict resilient is inform yourselves.
Yes.
Inform yourselves about how to create those relationships in a positive culture and climate. Inform yourselves on what a challenging conflict response might be. Read our article
Mhm.
when it comes out,
Yes, read our
right?
article.
um, but and then bring that to other people. Get a team together to offer to really help your school to
Hmm.
create a plan that is proactive, to help everyone feel confident,
Yeah.
trust
Yep.
that your school does take conflict seriously
Hmm.
and is poised to be professional in its response.
Yes,
Um,
I love that. And I think one other thing that I would add to that,
yeah.
'cause this is not something we talked about in our article either, I think, is the not the art, the value of the debrief after all of this
Mm,
happens.
yes.
We do that, we check the boxes, we've got our process, we've done the thing, but then we don't talk about it afterwards. Did
Right.
that go according to
Yes.
plan? Are
Yes.
there things that we need to tweak in our process because of what's happened? How did we feel when all of this was taking
Oh,
place? Like, did we feel like we were being supported? Did we feel like we had all the necessary tools we needed to manage this? And I think that's another thing in part two that we should talk about
absolutely. Bridget, that is
in our
right
article.
on. Right on. Absolutely. We we
So,
we need to weave those practices into our schools much more as well. The reflection piece,
yes,
right?
yes,
How
the
did
reflection
we
piece
do
is
and how could we do better? Yeah.
how can we do better? Because we always want to improve, right? We always want to
Right.
do a little bit better each day. And
Right.
so Brooke, tell us what you're up to. I know you had a couple of books and like
Yeah.
you've been jet setting. And so tell us what you're up to and how people can get in touch with you if they are
Sure.
interested in getting some support.
Sure. Yeah, so I really focus in three primary areas. I am a leadership coach, and I love doing that. I coach board chairs, I coach heads of schools, executive directors, and I coach senior leaders.
Hmm.
And I do individual coaching and group coaching and team coaching.
Okay.
So that's one of the things where if a school is struggling with um, not yet having a conflict resilient culture, I will work with administrative teams to address culture and climate within that team, and then
Hmm.
help them become more resilient in their ability to kind of manage the whole school.
Hmm.
So that leadership coaching at the team level. So that's one of the buckets.
Okay.
And then the other is governance work. I do a lot of governance work around how boards can be more effective, about financial planning. That's an area that I'm really diving into and doing a lot of writing now,
Hmm.
about how boards can uh, be really proactive about finances and financial stability moving forward.
Okay.
And then I also do strategic thinking and planning. So
Awesome.
small kinds of things, and then full strategic plans. So yeah, I my website is www.acstrategies.com, and yeah, I'd love to talk to folks. I work all over the country, and my focus really is primarily small independent
Hmm.
schools. People always say, "What is small?" Right? I think small is a feeling. If you feel like you're small, if you feel like you've got limited resources, if you're really focused on the community
Hmm.
feeling of your school, then you're small. That's typically 350 students or fewer. But
Right.
I work with mid-sized schools too. My
Okay.
sweet spot is small. Just I was head of school of a small school, and that's really my passion because there's not that many people in this space that are
Right.
really focused on small schools. So, um, yeah.
Awesome. All right. So before we wrap up, I have a few quick fire questions for you if you're up for it.
Okay.
All right. So coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee. 100%.
100% got it. The best piece of advice you've ever got as a head of school.
Oof. Hmm. I think it's probably ask before you act.
Mm, I like that. Yep. I like that one.
I'm thinking way
Um,
back to my first year. Ask before you act.
there you go. A book you put in the hands of every school leader right now.
Ooh. Well, Governing the Small School by Brooke Carroll.
There you go. Yes. And then lastly, one thing outside of work that always brings you joy.
Oh, we were talking about when we first got on. I love the fall, and I
Yeah.
love being outside hiking in the crisp fall woods.
Yay.
Just heaven to me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Brooke, for coming today. I really appreciate you and love that we've been able to do some work together. And I hope
Yeah,
it's just the beginning of our
just the
partnership.
beginning.
So,
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And Bridget, thank you for all the work that you're doing in this podcast and the impact that you're having on schools. I
aw.
think is tremendous. And you were telling me about your travel coming up and how you're across the country, really going out and working with associations and schools. And your voice is so important. I love what you're doing on this podcast, and
Oh,
I'm just
thank
grateful
you.
to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Brooke. I appreciate you. And so, thanks
Likewise.
today for pulling up a chair at the table today. Talking with Brooke reminded me that conflict isn't something we can or even should try to erase from our schools. It's a part of community life. The real opportunity is in how we prepare for it, respond to it, and use it as a chance to build trust and strengthen relationships. I hope this conversation gave you something to think about or maybe even something to try out in your own community. If you're enjoying the table, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, or leave us a comment. It really helps us to find more people to find us. And as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time at the table. Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Table Podcast Series. Is your student life program delivering on your mission? Our new K-12 student life assessment moves you beyond anecdotes to evidence-based decisions. Through comprehensive stakeholder surveys and expert analysis, you'll get concrete insights across 8 essential dimensions of student life, from culture and wellness to staff effectiveness and resource allocation. We're seeking founding partner schools to be the first to experience this transformative assessment process and help shape the future of student life evaluation. Today's episode was hosted by Bridget Johnson in conversation with Brooke Carroll, produced and edited by Andrick Sigmund and music by PremiumBeat.com. For any questions, contact information can be found in the episode description. And, as always, thanks again for listening.